favorite piece of this exhibit is this piragua cart. It brings me way back when I was growing up. Used to run to get a piragua every time I saw the piragua guy, especially the coconut flavor. Oh, so delicious. I love it when people come in here and they see this piragua and it takes them back to their childhood.
And the reason why this piece is my staff pick is because this piece leads to very interesting conversations about the border between Mexico and the United States. It's actually a border that I'm very familiar with, that I crossed a lot as a child back and forth, and also the one that I continue to cross as an adult.
My favorite artwork from the exhibition Culture and the People is Yellow Plantains or Plátanos Amarillos by Francisco Manuel Olleris Estero. One of the reasons Francisco Olleris is one of my favorite painters is because of the way he depicts the landscape and the social conditions in Puerto Rico. In a way, this painting reminds me of Puerto Rico, like my island.
I'm picking a piece made in 1961 by Rafael Montañez Ortiz. It is a sofa that was destroyed with the purpose of changing the canon of art and sculpture. I think it's a very meaningful piece in the history of this collection, because it was made by our founder and because I think it's a very radical and interesting artwork.
My favorite piece is the Young Lords piece for the permanent collection exhibition. As a native of El Barrio, I know how important the Young Lords were in their struggle for equal rights in El Barrio, and when I see it, I'm inspired to just embrace that struggle and keep moving forward every day.
The reason I picked this work is because it combines two things that I find very interesting in art. One is the appropriation of found elements, found objects, and the other one is self-representation. So the way the artist works is by, first of all, collecting disposed objects and material found in the streets of his Harlem, and then bringing them to the studio, recombining them, and adding several layers of painting, dripping, collage, drawing, creating this really multi-layered object that at the end results in the self-representation of the artist.
I picked these pieces by the Taller Papila Gráfica Popular because as someone from Mexican heritage and seeing pieces that were part of a revolution, part of inspiring people to stand up for themselves, I felt really connected to these in my own heritage, but also them being in this gallery, it is a sign from the past of constant revolution and something that's very important for, I think, people to keep, especially nowadays and especially for El Barrio.
This is my favorite piece. It's called The Flag. It's a piece by Nicolas Dumit. I actually had the opportunity to meet the artist. He came from Dominican Republic and he built a flag based on his experience. And I think most of us, we can relate to this feeling of leaving behind our home and then building a new home.
My staff pick is this work by Ibeliz Jimenez. I had the opportunity to meet her at her studio in Caguas, and this work is an example of post-hurricane resilience. And this particular work was acquired recently by a museo through our group Contemporáneos.
The piece, I Can't Breathe, speaks out to me due to the fact that I can relate to the modern time, and that's George Washington up there, and I feel like he's saying he's lost for words, and the words are going missing. There's a lot of things that should be said that isn't said, and they're just going missing. And or we just act like it's not there, and then come back to it years later, and we could have helped it at that moment, at that time. So my motto is, if you know better, you do better.
My pick from Culture and the People are the selection of exhibition posters. I really love these posters because not only are they beautiful artworks in themselves, but they also talk about the history of El Museo. I love that you can trace how time is going by, you can see the different addresses, the different logos that were used, and even some of them, you get a sense for the moment. I love the work from 1978, Resurgimiento, that is very groovy from the 70s.
I selected this work for various reasons. Ferrari was in exile from Argentina during the height of that country's dictatorship in the 1970s. So, perhaps, behind the sort of whimsical and colorful squiggles that you see in Ferrari's drawing is maybe, a group of abstract portraits of, the young, scarred and charred victims of a totalitarian society.
My favorite piece is Rigoberto Torres' statue of a statue. I love that he's depicting a real person. The worker depicted is a worker in Rigoberto's uncle's factory in the Bronx where they made Santos. I love this idea of a worker also being an artisan. I think that we associate the Santos with artesanías in our homelands, whether it's Puerto Rico or Dominican Republic. But I feel like once that process of production happens in a factory and becomes mass produced, that you kind of separate the idea of the person making the statue with art. So I kind of love the homage of a worker as artisan.
And I chose these photographs by Harry Maristani because I feel like they really show the origins of the museum, and I think it's really important for us to remember why the museum started, as well as who the museum is really for, and how it's really supposed to be educating the next generations about our culture and fostering a sense of community. So I feel like these pictures really represent that, and they're a good reminder of where we came from and where we should be going.
¿Cómo cree usted, compay, que se sintió mi madre?